Welcome to Trinity and to what I think is going to be an extraordinary discovery tonight about an amazing life that we can't really imagine. And we've got with us Sirin Phathanothai,
Thank you.
who's going to tell us her story. And she's got members of her family here. And I guess, Sirin, I want to begin really by saying the first time we met, it was in Trinity. Your son, Joe, came to Trinity. And it was at a ceremony at which the university was honouring your eldest son, Joe. And I was struck, he was surrounded by family. And family seems to be a theme in your life and it's very, very important to you.
Yes.
And your upbringing was in Thailand, your initial upbringing. Tell us about your childhood.
I was born in Thailand and in Bangkok, and very happy, in a very happy family. And also, that's when I was 8 years old, when I went to China. That was how, just the passport photo. And these were my brother who went with me, the older brother, and myself, younger Sirin.
And you lived in a family which was very connected politically in Thailand.
Very much so, because my father was the chief advisor in all the foreign policy during that period of Thailand. It was during the Cold War. So we were trapped between America and China. So my father was the main architect of the foreign policy of Thailand. So we, I'm in and out with powerful people around me since I was a child.
I think we've got a picture of what your childhood looked like.
That was the car that my father gave me when I was 6 years old. Yeah, and that was my driver. He sent me to school every day. Now, this one, I follow my father to nearly every event, political important event. Like this one, we were doing the Thai ceremony, one of the Thai ceremony, to welcome the Indonesian minister, and I was there with my
girl
father.
In plaits, yes.
With my father in classes.
Yes. It was a strange childhood, wasn't it? You were exposed to politics at a very young age.
Well, in a sense, it was normal for me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it strange, and but the fact that I often had to, you see, when we were surrounded by a lot of these powerful people, everywhere you went, people do this, do that all the time, you got used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that later on, it was translated into power, yes, but when I was a child, I thought it was one of the normal things.
Yeah. And the political situation at that time was very tense for Thailand.
Yes, in a sense, because Thailand was, as I said, we were in the midst of the Cold War, which I often said to my friends. Now, I never really expect that I would see in my lifetime another Cold War coming. Yeah, it was very hard then for the country like Thailand.
And what was the great fear about China?
Oh, my father, as the policy maker, was very much worried, very, very worried about China, because China was big and we had a huge Chinese population in Thailand. And, with all the big communist power, not far from us, we don't have our common border, but close enough. And so it was a big worry for my, for people like my father who would have to decide on the policy, foreign policy. Now, while our neighboring countries, if you look around, Laos, Cambodia, Burma, these were the countries they later on went with the world was a Soviet Union camp and the Western world led by the Americans. Only Thailand chose to go with the American, with the Western camp. The rest of the countries, they went under the Soviet Union, or they call it the non-alliance countries. And the fact is that so many decades afterwards, Deng Xiaoping himself said it in 1979. He said, look at all the countries around us. Whoever followed America got prosperity. Whoever followed the Soviet Union, they're still very poor. And I think that was the luck of Thailand that at the time we did follow mainly with the U.S. led Western camp.
And that would not have made you popular with China, that relationship
We were the
with
enemy
America.
of China. Thailand then was the big enemy, and because we were in the forefront for the U.S., we sent troops to Korea. We sent also troops to Vietnam. Anything that against China, Thailand was in the forefront. And also the Seattle, the Southeast Asian organization, was the headquarters was set in Thailand. These are all one part of my father's policy to follow the Western camp. But in the meantime, in the back of his mind, he was very worried about the invasion from China. Yeah. So he was trying to, because, if once China would invade us by any means, America would be far too far away to come and help us. That's the thinking. So as a Thai, we Thai people, we are small, so we often find a way to survive. So my father thought, well, there must be a way that we could approach the communist China in a more friendly way and let them understand our predicament. And so if they wanted to invade us or to do anything bad to us, at least they knew that we wanted to be friends. That was the original idea.
And it was quite a show of friendship, what he decided.
Well, no, I'm not so sure it was really friendship. It was in a predicament that he had to follow, he hated communism. And at the same time, he couldn't fight the communists like that. So therefore, and we are a small country, and we have to survive. So that's why he thought of how to approach China. But before that, there was a Bandung Conference in 1955. We were very, very friendly with UNO, Prime Minister UNO of Burma, who used to come again, another powerful figure at the time, would come to visit us in our house, and I would play with him, and So he brought the news that there would be a Bandung Conference of non-alliance, and Zhou Enlai would be there. So that was the first thought my father had, that we should try to get in touch with this guy, because he was just new, and he was a powerful man from communist China. And that was how he tried to convince our prime minister to send our foreign minister, Prince Wan Wai, to Bandung Conference. And in order to disguise our real aim, my father gave a very good reason that we wanted to go there as an observer, to see what was cooking there, So the Americans was quite happy with that. And so in that Bandung Conference, our prince had opportunity to meet secretly with Premier Zhou Enlai, because both sides had that intention to get to each other. So therefore, one day they decided that Zhou Enlai invited our prince to his residence. They had rented a place as Zhou Enlai's residence during the conference. And that was how the prince and Zhou Enlai met for the first time. And he gave him a very, very impressive, kind of impression for the prince. And he came back to see my father. And I remember the first time I heard the name Zhou Enlai, that was it, when he said, "Oh, Sang, who said that Zhou Enlai was a monster?" He was a Mandarin. He was a Lord of Mandarin, and because my father did a lot of propaganda. He was the man who controlled all the propaganda on the anti-communists and so on. And Zhou Enlai used to be on one of his cartoons or whatever advertisements, anti-communist, that he big monsters with the teeth. I still remember that. And these things were made in our house. We had a big house, and there was a huge room, bigger than this one, just to do those posters every day. How communists burn houses and kill wives and that sort of things. Those were the brain behind
Ideas.
all this. Was my father. But because he himself was a historian and intellectual, so he also had this kind of desire to discover what this neighbor was about. Yeah.
So how did it move from that to the idea to send your brother in the first instance to China?
I think it started probably earlier. And then when he decided to send Prince Wan Wai to Bandung, there were three things they should discuss if they would meet. If Prince could meet Zhou Enlai by any chance, and if Prince felt okay that the guy was not monsters or whatever, then we would start talking these three principles. Number one is the situation of Thailand predicament, with America. We need to go with America. We need to beat you, and we need to send troops, we need to be China, and we ask Zhou Enlai to be, to accept our situation as a small nation. Yeah. Number two is that because of this, we also want to have a kind of a direct relationship with the Chinese top leaders and Zhou Enlai himself. And therefore, Prime Minister Pibul would assign my father, Sirin Phathanothai, to be the only channel to contact Zhou Enlai. That's number two. Number three is, if the occasion would arise, we would like to show the sincerity from Thailand that we really wanted to be friends with China, but under the circumstances, we still have to go against you. So the prince raised the question of, the prime minister and father had been discussing whether, sending his own prime minister's representative to China, secret representative, and that would be a young boy of 12, the actual son of my father. So that was the 3 points that decided among them. The 2 points that how Thailand and China could sign a peaceful coexistence so that China would not invade us. This one, Chairman Mao would send a representative to somewhere and to sign with my father. Number 2, agreed that father would be the only channel. But number 3, about the children, sending the representative boy to China, he had to go back and discuss with Mao Zedong. And that was something you would see in the thing is, Chinese official propaganda or whatever you call it. They made every few years a history of their leaders. And this one they made about history of Zhou Enlai's life and works. And in there, it was a long television series of over 43 or 44 episodes. In there, about 1/3 about us, which came from the Chinese officials of how these two kids went to China. So
we've got some footage.
主席，
来，
主席，刚刚接到姚宗明送来的探访消息，桑帕坦努泰为了表示对我们的友好，要将一对儿女秘密送往中国，一个10岁的男孩和一个8岁的女孩。
哎呀，这怎么可以呢？2个泰国孩子来了，谁来负责看护他们？那么小，几天就闹着要回家了，这样不好，对孩子也不公平。这样不是成了他们主动送人质过来了吗？我们不需要任何国家这么做，他们来玩玩倒是可以的，啊？
主席，这样恐怕不行。听姚宗明汇报说，这是桑与皮文总理决定的。如果我们拒绝了他们，不但伤害了皮文总理，更挫伤了桑对中国的这份真诚与信任。他们不是送孩子来当人质，他们是希望孩子来学习中国的文化，将来可以成为中泰交流的纽带和桥梁。
你认为我们应该回封信接受？
立即邀请孩子来中国。听说桑和2个孩子已经做好了出发的准备，正在等待着我们的回复。
好，回复吧，我们欢迎。不过这2个小外宾，我们可要安排好，不要让他们的父亲失望。
And we're going to come to another one, but this was a movie that was made
by the Chinese officials. And it's been watched over 400 million people because it's every day that they run, it's still running in memory of Zhou Enlai.
แล้วคุณพ่อล่ะครับ
已经被他们关进了牢房。
ผมจะกลับไป ผมจะไปช่วยคุณพ่อ
常怀，你一定要冷静。你是哥哥，妹妹，她需要你的力量。
And in there was a scene to show that how the whole Mao and was discussing about Zhou Enlai bring the subject that this our contact in Thailand, Mr. Sang would like to send his children to China, and one is 12 years old, one is 8-year-old, to be under our guards. And Mao at the beginning did not agree and said, "Oh, the young kids coming, what are they doing?" And next day they want to go back, and it was. We had no relationship with China, no plane, no nothing at all. We were enemy states. So, but in the end, Zhou Enlai convinced, and it's on the television to show that Mao Zedong in the end said, "Well, please welcome these 2 kids to come as our guests, and you take good care of them." So that's how we went. My father could let his children to go to China. It's not just, he sent to somewhere to whomever. And also, at the beginning, there was only one person, one boy going there. I wasn't in the picture, and I was not meant to be. I was my father, the apple in his eyes. He loved me. I was the first girl, and always very all over the place with him, and the best fashion in the West. When he came, he would buy to me. I would, So that was some kind of he was so attached to me. So anyway, nobody thought in the family that I would go, but I wanted to go. Why? Because I heard over in the car that my brother was going on a plane. So I wanted to go on a plane so that I could come back and, show my classmates, the girls, that I had been on a plane. Now, you wouldn't think anything now of going on a plane. Even my grandson, he went on the plane at 6 months or 7 months. In those days, in the 50s, 1950s, not many children ever went on a plane. It was a big thing.
And when you went, your parents agreed you would both go. And when you went, you had to go in secret.
A great secret. We were two, and I had 4 bodyguards to come with us. And the poor guy, they were so young, but I thought they were so old. In fact, you know what I mean. So they came with us, and they were stuck in China together with us since their 20s until many years with us. They were great sacrifice. So anyway, 4 bodyguards came with us, and but the point is, the minute I got on the plane, I regretted it. I really, those planes, they were 4 propellers. There was no, at the time, there was no a big plane like when my father went to America. In a big plane, we were underneath on the tarmac, and we said goodbye to father. That was a big plane. There's 4 propeller planes. So anyway, we had to go secretly to Burma, and Burma was a great friend of China. So we were received by the Chinese ambassador and so on. And the next day, he sent us off by a special plane to China. Now, we didn't know we were going to China. We didn't know where we were going. We just knew we were going to take a plane and we go abroad. That was what I knew. So in the end, so the next day we were, and I remember my first diplomatic mission that I went to, we were invited by the Chinese ambassador. He was Mao Zedong's representative to invite us that evening. And my first official mission, I fell asleep all through. They especially brought in the film, children's film, the Chinese made cartoon to show us. I slept through. I woke up in the hotel, and a big shame for my brother.
When you arrived in China, what were your impressions?
Well, I thought we were going to where my father went. Switzerland, London at the time, and America, Camp David, whatever. The pictures I had, and I always had to tell my father, send me the postcard to school, to the school. So, that kind of a desire that I wanted to show to my dear friends, that was a big drive for me to go to China, actually. But then it was such a flop. I mean, China then, it was, first of all, from the 4 propeller, my so-called special military plane that came to fetch us had 2 propellers. And it was really a big disaster for me, for my life. It was horrible. It was, I was sick all through the journey. And then we got to Kunming, not Beijing, because it's far too far at the time. So we stayed and take a rest there.
And at what point did you realize you weren't going home?
I went?
At what point did you realize that you were not going home? This wasn't a holiday.
I thought I would go the next day, always, go back to Thailand. And so when we got to China, we were in a hotel, Peking Hotel. And the whole floor was left for us on the 8th floor. And so we wanted to show that we wanted to go home, And my brother had an idea that, and everything was so secret in China at the time, because even houses in Beijing was so low, muddy houses like that, because it could not be higher than the emperor's throne, you see, at the time. So all over Beijing, there was really muddy houses. And I didn't know why my father sent us over here. And we couldn't tell the differences between women and men because they all dressed up in blue, uniforms and a hat with, no cars, not many. And we had cars, but on the street, very few cars. And then everybody was going on bicycles. And so it was quite a shock, culture shock.
So you had to learn Mandarin?
Yes, when they sent the teacher to teach us. So we wanted to show that we didn't want to learn it because we're not going to stay here. We're going home the next day whenever we could. And therefore the teacher came and we did everything. The teacher came by bike. My brother would go and let go the air, and she couldn't go home. Fine. And when she said this is the Chinese word called 可以, we would say 可以. So she was completely, she could cry, until one day we were told that Zhou Enlai was going to meet us. He was coming. So we were kind of, my brothers thought immediately, he had that in his blood that he had to behave. He the representative of the Thai Prime Minister and so on. So he told me, look, when you saw Zhou Enlai, when he comes in, you've got to do the Thai Wai, do it nicely, and then but we had to shake hands because now we are in international environment. You got to shake hands, not only to Wai. So we were practicing walking and so on. But then we saw Zhou Enlai walking to the house. You saw it also in the film there. And we were just completely, we forgot everything that we just practiced. But Zhou Enlai, he was such a warm human. He would come in, open his arms and just embrace me. And so it was really very nice. So that was our first meeting with Zhou Enlai.
And you did eventually go to school once you'd develop further in your language skills. You did go to school.
I did go to school, but mainly is because of the situation change in Thailand. And my father, the military regime came over, and my father and his followers, 2,000 of them intellectuals and the top member of parliaments and journalists, they all 2,000 of them went into jail. So many that they had to build a new jail for him, and that jail is still there.
I've got a picture of that.
These were all famous politicians and intellectuals of Thailand, very well known.
And that must have been incredibly distressing for you to be away from home so far.
Yes.
Understanding that
yes.
life
the
at home.
The film just now that's shown, that was when Zhou Enlai came to our house and told us the news of father being in jail. And so my brother said, well, he got up, he was very excited, and he said, well, I have to go home now. My mission here has ended because the Prime Minister had been toppled and my father was in jail. That was when Zhou Enlai, embraced us and said, no, boy, your mission is just starting now. This is the starting point.
So these are some pictures of you in China.
In China, yes. We had our own car, the Skoda, from the Czech Republic with us, and then our own court. We have a very big courtyard house, Manchu Lord, former Manchu Lord's house, and so we lived there with personnel, with cooks and drivers and the staff all over 10 people to look after us.
And your mother, sorry, I've just clicked that the wrong way. Your mother did visit at one point.
Yes, a few times in the early 60s she came.
Yeah.
And Zhou Enlai received him. That's Zhou Enlai's wife. And Liu Chengzhi was my guardian, like my second father. And these were all the people who took care of us in the house. So we in that sense, I think we had my father was in jail, but that was the time when Zhou Enlai adopted us. And, Zhou Enlai adopted us, and that was the chance that my brother and I had to be inside the palace of Zhongnanhai together with Mao Zedong and all the leaders of China every Saturday, because it was in the summer. It was so hot in Beijing, and we went to a common swimming pool. There were so many kids that I could hardly put my foot into the water. So we came home very unhappy, and then it was reported to Zhou Enlai that, of how terrible it was. So Zhou, ever since then, he took us to the palace where all the leaders, the top leaders lived in Zhongnanhai. And we had the access every Saturday, weekend. So the first time I saw Mao Zedong was at the swimming pool, at an enormous swimming pool. And I remember I was standing on this side, and I just saw a bump. I thought it was a balloon because kids were playing and shouting, and so on. Marshal Zhu De was there, and Marshal He Long was there. People all mixed together at the time. And I just saw a balloon, and I thought it was a huge balloon. And then it was so far away, and not long, and soon enough, somebody pulled that balloon up, and it was Mao. Mao had a very special, way of lying, floating, without moving. So you saw only his stomach and nothing else, but he didn't move anything. And it was very funny because when he got up, and the people just put soldiers put the cloak on him. Yeah. And then he made the hand like this, and people put a cigarette in that. That was very impressive, my first meeting with Mao, or when I saw him. And then, my relationship or feeling with Mao was very strange, because I knew him when I was a child. So to children, Mao had no fear. He was another human. I could see that difference. When he was with the marshal, with the powerful other people, he wasn't at ease. But with us, he very at ease. He always had bonbon in his pocket. And I tell you, the Chinese bonbon at the time, it was horrible. It was a black sugar. It was black. I don't know where they got it from, whatever sugar, the sweet. Anyway. So he would always have that in his pocket. And after the bath, we would go around him, and then he would go, how are you studying? Good, give a bonbon. Yeah. So that was kind of first impression, or the impression that stuck in your head. No matter how horrible he became later. That kind of a child with Mao was something that image was still stuck. And then another thing was, we had you just realized the different kinds of life outside and inside the palace. So, every Saturday at the time there was this Saturday dancing, and all the leaders would be there. So the kids like us, we just ran around. The music was, live music was playing. Beautiful girls were there to lead these old guys to dance. And then you saw the president of China, you saw everybody there. And at 10 o'clock, the whole music stopped. You didn't hear even a sound, any noise. Mao arrived, and I can assure you, every time without fail, there must be one or two girls just flopped and fainted, just by seeing Mao walking inside.
I want to move us forward. And you went to university.
Yes.
And then your world changed. Because the Cultural Revolution started.
Yes.
Tell us how that affected you.
I think the whole thing started at my university, at Peking University. And I think that was in 1966, it started. And that was the year that my father came out from jail. From jail, after 8 years in jail, he came. And the first thing he wanted to do was to come to China to see his children. 10 years he hadn't seen us. So then just, he couldn't get visa to come out, a passport, not visa, passport to come out of Thailand because they were afraid, the military junta was afraid that my father would come out and to China and meet with our ex-Prime Minister Pridi and set up a kind of a government, refugee government or whatever abroad. So they wouldn't give him passport. Until one day he was visited by an American political commissar to come to our house, who knew us. And by then they knew already that my father had 2 children under the care of Zhou Enlai. So he came and he talked with my father, and then my father grumbled that he couldn't go to China to see his children. So he said, well, there was one message from President Johnson if my father would like to take. My father had a very close relationship with the American government all through anyway. And so then he would like my father to take to Zhou Enlai, who then was our guardian. They knew it by then. And so if my father would agree, then they make sure that my father would have a passport to go to see his children. So he wanted my father to take the message at the time. This was in 1966. One is that the American wanted to end the Vietnam War. Number 2 message was that Taiwan problem could be discussed. So these 2 messages were the same messages that Kissinger carried 4 years later to China. But at the time it was so unfortunate. The Cultural Revolution started in 1967 January. It started the so-called the power seizure. So everybody in all ministry, you can, Red Guards could go in and put the leaders away and had a struggle meeting, carried them around the street and that kind of things. Zhou Enlai was just happened to be put away by the Red Guards in the Great Hall of the People during the time that my father visited us in 1967 February. And so when we left my father when I was 8 years old. When I saw him, I was 18. It was a very touching scene for everybody to witness then. And but we just started our journey back to Beijing when my father said, "Look, I come here with a mission. I had a message to tell Zhou Enlai, so you must get in touch with Zhou Enlai." And we said, "Oh, Father, this is not the time. The word of America, U.S. is a dog, is a mad dog here and there. And we have to eliminate the American and bury them at the 9th floor under the ground. And how could you talk about this to the Chinese? No way." Well, my father was a very he had been a very top politician. He insisted that he had to pass on this. He said this would be a big thing for the world peace, and if China and America could come together, the world would see a more peaceful time. So that was his mission that he had to do. So we couldn't convince him, and we were in Beijing, and we stayed in a Peking hotel. The Red Guards, we wanted to see Zhou Enlai. Of course, he couldn't come opposite us. It was the Great Hall of the People. He was surrounded by thousands and thousands of Red Guards for over 2 weeks. It's a crazy country at the time. And so my father couldn't see him, but they sent the representative to meet him. And my father told him of the, of the message, verbal message from President Johnson. Well, then I think that was the beginning of our journey to hell, because then suddenly at that point on, we became the running dog of the Americans, and we were the American imperialist servants and spies and all that. So my father was having 72 hours to be, out of China, deported from China, and no longer you are our friends, we have brought your children up, and look at the way you do, now you are our enemy, overnight. And so my father was totally shocked, really couldn't see the craziness of people that, could happen in such a short time. And he looked around the country everywhere. It was military marches and so on. And he said, well, a country cannot be run in this way. Anyway, he left immediately. So when we came back from sending off my father, that was our journey started, journey to hell started. We came back, and the driver picked us up, and when we got home, we just realized from the eyes of our staff, over 10 people, including their children, they immediately changed to the people we never knew before. And my brother was very quick in understand the situation, that something very bad was going to happen, and we had to prepare for the worst. It didn't register because I was too young. Perhaps I was 16, 17, and I was just enjoying my life. I just had my first love. I couldn't listen to what my brother was telling me, who was telling me, look, we have to, the address in Thailand was this. I put it in a drawer, and your passport here, because I never had to do any of those. Mm-hmm. And so the next day came very fast, that they wanted us to go to the struggle meeting. So we were there, and we realized that even the cook didn't want to cook for us, because we became the people's enemy, and they wouldn't serve the enemy. The enemy, they want to get rid of us, not to serve us. And therefore, the next day, Lao Lai, who was our driver, he was very decent, and he had great sympathy for us. He saw me growing up under his eyes, so that kind of attachment is quite different. You could see. So when I asked him, where are we going? He couldn't tell us where we're going, so he kept on saying, I will know later. But actually he was driving me there, driving me and my brother. And we went down to the whole hall of the Red Guards over there, and, shouting and cursing my family, cursing my father, and how we went with the Americans and so on. We were the American running dogs, and we betrayed China. And every accusation, my brother would stand up and safeguard the honor of our family. And for the second day, that evening we came home, they separated us, brother and me. But the night before, my brother started to burn a few letters, burn a lot of things, pictures, because we had a lot of pictures with marshals, with generals, with whoever, the very important people who lived in Zhongnanhai. At the time, they were good people, but then at that moment, they were Mao's enemies. So my brother was, thinking that these people would invade into our room, into our house, and these would be the evidence against them, against us. So he burned them. And so then after that, we came back home, and we were separated, and they just pushed a few porridge under the door for us. We used to have huge mansion and having huge dining room. There they just put me in in my bedroom, and my brother probably in his bedroom, and so we couldn't contact. So then somebody came to me and said, well, you have to decide, because your soul is so dirty. We have to cleanse your soul. You've been capitalist, you've been with growing up with the Americans and so on. Which road you want to take? You want to take to follow the American lackeys and to be the American lackeys, or you want to be with the people? Well, really, I couldn't know. Even I want to follow the American, doggies. I didn't know where to find them anyway. So I said, I want to go with the people. And so in that case, you have to clean your soul, you have to listen to us, and you have to condemn your brother, and you have to condemn So they gave me the text. I said, what for? Nobody told me anything. So the next day, we were taken to the meeting again by different cars. I didn't see my brother. And then again, the meeting was very serious. And then came in 4 Liberation Army people. And they asked one of my guardian there, Shanan, who spoke Thai, read out the sentence against my brother to say that he was anti-Mao, he was American lackeys, and he betrayed China. Therefore, we will give him a capital punishment. I was shocked. I was really shaking sitting there. And then a group of soldiers came in and dragged him out, right in front of my eyes. And I was sitting there, shaking. And ever since then, I lost my speech. I couldn't speak. And then so they took me home. So-called taking me home. Actually, it was not my home. I saw the Peking, Peking hotel. And I thought, okay, I wouldn't go home. In fact, later on, I learned there were 250 soldiers living in my house. They all came into Beijing, nowhere to stay. My house is huge, 5 courtyards. So they all stayed there. So I couldn't go home. Immediately, home was no longer my home. So I saw the Peking hotel and I thought that was good, Peking hotel. But I got into Peking hotel and I went down. I didn't go up. Down and down and down. Then I realized I was put in next door to the boilers room because I heard the boilers. The room was dark. I was in that dark room, God knows, I don't know how long, but it must be because when I came out, it was May. And when I went in, when my brother was taken, it was February, so I must have been there 3 months. But I was there, dark, no light, all through. And every day, the Red Guard would bang the door and then push the food in. But I had one thought in my life. I thought, if I die, then nobody would know how I died. Really, nobody would know. They could just say many things about me that I kill myself or whatever. So I just wanted to live. I wanted to live to tell my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was I think that was the will behind me for so long in the dark, and it had this impact on me. I am claustrophobic ever since until now, you know. I think as a result of that darkness and the very small room, very filthy, dirty, and but anyway, the will to live was what made me survive then. And then they came one day. They came and they said, "Okay, would you cooperate with us? Now we have cleaned your soul." I really couldn't understand those languages, but anyway, they said, "Would I read this text over the radio?" Radio Beijing, you know, Radio Beijing is an international radio broadcast to Southeast Asia and so on, Chinese state radio, and wanted me to read. And I said, so I read it. It was a condemnation of my family, of my father. I want to cut my relationship with my father. I want to cut relationship with my family who follow the Americans, who were American lackeys and so on. They betray China, but I want to stay with China. I want to stand with China, that kind of thing. So then I declared that I would cut my relationship with my family. I had no way. You know, in Thailand, this is the worst crime and a conscience I could commit to my family, because you don't denounce your own family in that way. You know, you respect your parents, you love your people, and we have been a very close family. So there was a big decision, and I decided I want to live, so I want to go. I want to get out. I asked them. After I did that, they said, well, then we would teach you how to live, how to relive, because so far all these years, over 10, 20 years, you wasted your life. We would teach you how you live properly. Okay, so I agreed. So that's how I remember the first day when I came out from that dark room to the street, I fainted, because I never had that bright lights into my eyes earlier. So anyway, they took me to the radio station, and I made a broadcast. And when it came to the sentence that I would cut off my relation with my family, I broke down. And redo it again, redo it. How many times? I don't know, but it didn't work. So in the end, I said, okay. They just had to get the text passed to show the world that the Phathanothai no longer friends of China and so on. They betray China. They were with the American imperialists. So anyway, on the other side, my father heard. And actually, a few years later, I had my text back, the text that I read from the National Security. They also listened to my radio at the time. Yeah. So anyway, it was effective in that sense. My father, so I was told some years later, he shut himself up in a room for 3 days. And then he came up and he said, our daughter will be alive.
Sirin, I'm going to say to people, this story is told in an extraordinary book that Sirin's written, and I'm going to have to move us on because you went to the countryside, you spent a year in the countryside, you almost died, you worked as a peasant, living with a peasant family.
At first, I was the military
You were a
man.
military.
They put me in, for my safety, they changed my name to another name, not Chang Yuan, but Pan Hong. Okay, and then I had to remember all the time that but one thing that saved me was because I lost my speech in that sense, in a sense that I couldn't think and speak. But when they asked me to read, I could read, but I could not talk, for a while. And then, so I simply couldn't speak. And so I found myself in the middle of the military people, every morning, at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we got up and folded the blankets, and then, we went on the drills. And then one day there was a resting day, to wash your clothes. And I never washed my clothes in my life. I think my grandchildren are better now. They do their own washing in the machine. And I never did it. So I do my clothes and I hung up. Then came a guy who just didn't say anything, just got down my laundry and wash it like this, and then rinse it, and then hang it up. And he said, next time, if you need any help, just call me. He was the guy who saved my life, and actually he was sent by Zhou Enlai. He was a military man who followed me until the end when I was in the what do you call with the peasants, because the military troops had to leave, and so he put me with the peasants. So every morning, early in the morning, I would go to the field and do the cutting, and I still have the cutting here with the sickle. And I don't know what happened. I think I just couldn't eat. I was there for 2 years. The worst thing in my life was, I'm scared of mice. I am, even today, if I saw the picture, I got a shiver. And there in the countryside where I was, the mice were running upstairs all the time. Those were worse than, psychologically it was horrible. But anyway.
I want to take you further forward because I want to leave time for us to talk about what happened next.
Yeah.
I'm going to rush us through a little bit. You came back to Beijing, you were very ill, and you worked for some time in a factory for about a year. But I'm interested to know, how did you get out?
Yeah, the thing is, in the factory there was one thing that I really realized what communist leaders, some of these lower leaders were like. Because I was a textile worker, doing textile. And one day I received, people said, oh, you had a letter for you. They gave me the letter. Oh, I never had a letter from anyone. I had a letter, so I was very excited. Then, every stamp at the time was Mao's portrait. Every stamp. So I went to the toilet because I wanted to see who wrote me the letter. So I quickly tore up the letter. I just chopped off Mao's head. And I left. I threw it somebody picked it up and sent it to the party secretary of the factory. And so I was called. Oh, she was a huge lady. And she said, look at that, isn't that you? Because there was my name on there. And there was Mao's head completely off. This is done by, deliberately, I was an anti-Mao in my soul, in my whatever it is. They're going to hold the whole factory was going to have a struggle meeting against me the next morning after my night shift. My night shift would come out at 6 o'clock in the morning. That the whole night I was shaky. I don't know what would happen to me the next morning. The struggle meeting could be very, very harsh. So I came out and dropped everything else, and then suddenly I saw there was a crying, and then the fume.
Smoke.
The smoke coming out. And the children were crying. So I ran over, and I don't know what I did. Probably I went and saved a few children. And I found myself waking up in a hospital bed. And in front of me was that huge lady who was going to hold a struggle meeting against me that morning. She was there with a big red paper flowers, claiming me as a hero, I thought at that moment, communism is crazy.
You got out because of Zhou Enlai and a
Edward
message
Heath.
to Edward Heath.
Yeah, that was really my life saving, because Zhou Enlai heard that probably a lot of difficulty. He had also been trying to look for me, and there was this man, that military man who followed me and kind of overlooked what happened. So I think in 1969, Edward Heath was a opposition party leader, visited China, visited Zhou Enlai. They were good friends. And so Zhou Enlai asked Edward Heath that he told my story, that he had a Thai adopted daughter, but now he would not be in a position to protect her anymore, and whether British government would take me. And at the time I was stateless, because the Red Guard burned all my belongings, my passport. I had no state whatever, and there was no Thai embassy I could go to or anywhere. So Edward Heath said, no problem, as long if Your Excellency would write a letter to state that she was a Thai from Thailand and a Thai nation, and they would be very happy to a kind of a travel document. They would kind of give me a visa to England, and that was how I had a visa to England within one day. Yeah. On that day, and so I started my new life in England. I came here also because of there was the father of my children, David Horn. He came back from China also. They were very communist. They were extremely left. They were completely what I am not. I was not. So that was another kind of life I had to accept. I remember I told Zhou Enlai before I left, I was not in love with him. I don't want to go there to marry him. Zhou Enlai said, this is not the time to talk about love. You just have to go. So
you came back, you married David.
Within a week.
Within a week.
I would never do that again.
You had 2 sons, and then you reconnected with your family. And in a sense, the next part of your life was really what your father had prepared you for. You were asked if you would help Thailand to facilitate discussions with China.
Yes, when I got to England, I saw people were so kind. They called me Ducky. They loved me. I couldn't speak so well English, so fishmonger, fish monkey, that kind of difficulties. But I adapted. I became the daughter-in-law in that family. But the point is, I said to myself, enough China, no more. I've done enough. I've done since I was 8 years old. Now I just wanted a peaceful life, But then my family found me. This is a long story with Scotland Yard, M16, M14, whatever you have. In the end, it was the American CIA who found me. So anyway, my family they thought I was dead. After 5 years of no news, but then in the end, somewhere they got the news that I was alive and married in England. Married to a horn. But there were millions of horns, So anyway, there was a story in the end that they found me. And then my father called me that day. And I tell you, it was just like we never parted. It was just like when I was 8 years old. It was so close, so lovable. My mother came on the phone, and 2 days later they flew to England. You know, I had such a complicated past, difficult to explain. Therefore, when I was in England, I married into this Horn family. When their relatives asked me, why your parents? I said, I'm an orphan. Easy, you know, I'm an orphan, no parents, nobody.
Then all of a sudden your parents showed up.
That's the problem. So because you know, it's very difficult to explain. I am a Thai, but I came from China.
Yeah.
You know, and then normally a lot of Thai people would be in England. They came from Thailand, from the kind of family of our family would send their children to live in a British family or whatever, but no. Here I am, coming from China, married an Englishman. And so very difficult to explain how I come and how I, you know, so in the end I said I'm an orphan. Including the relatives of David would not know where what I was. So when my parents came over, we just had to remake the story again. Suddenly my parents turned up. But it was very touching the way that the first time I met my father and my mother, the way that, we were such a, how my father was so appreciative that the way I survived. Yeah, and I think we are a great family.
Yeah. Now I want to move us on. I know there's loads you can tell us about how we got there, but we've got time to keep to.
Yeah.
You were asked to go back to China.
No, I was the only person ever, because there was this in 1972, February, Nixon visited China. So my father was really a political animal. He knew that it was what he had been working for the whole life, for the time has come. The junta has to see that they had been wrong for 20 years, Now we had to change our policy again, and we had to approach China now. America is there, so we have to go there. Then my father worked with the number 3 man who was of the country, very powerful man, Mr. Prasit. They were close friends. So father explained to them that, this is, the wind has changed now. Thailand, America has changed. So then the junta, the 2 of them, Thanom and Prapat, they were really scratching their heads, but we had been enemies to China. We cursed them until even yesterday and this morning. How could we contact them? So my father said, I had my daughter. I became the only link, my father told me, to convince me, because I said to my father, China, no more. So my father said, Sirin, you are the only hope for Thailand. You are the only person in the world Thailand can have to contact the Chinese top leader. And it was true. I was the only one. Nobody could have done that. So my father had this kind of great talent, wisdom to convince, what he wanted to get, the kind of, purpose. So I came into the game again. I went to the embassy, saw the ambassador, told him who I was, and I wanted him to contact Zhou Enlai now, because the ping pong tournament will start in 10 days. We want the invitation because the 2 countries never had any relationship at all. And so this would have been the first time the Thai Tennis Federation sent their team to China to compete. But they need invitation. And then, but the main thing was, my brother came leading a delegation of 2 or 3 member of parliament to tell the Chinese that in that team, there would be Mr. Prasit, number 3 guy of the government, as advisor of the ping pong team. But in fact, this trip was mainly to discuss the relationship between the 2 countries. Who could arrange that? only Sirin could arrange that. So I went to tell the ambassador. I said that my brother was here, but you know my scene when I saw my brother, I thought he was dead. I thought he was shot dead in a Cultural Revolution. Oh, Heathrow was our reunion. The two brother and sister, we love each other so much. You know, he was like a father to me. So you are alive. And so my brother said, you alive. So we both alive. Anyway, we survived. And so I took him and a member of parliament to the Chinese embassy. And Zhou Enlai's invitation to the minister Prasit and the Federation of China Ping Pong to Thai Ping Pong came within 24 hours. This delegation went back to Thailand, full of glory, because you see within a few hours, my daughter could get the top invitation. So ever since then, Zhou Enlai asked whether I could join this ping pong tournament and to help arrange, because the main purpose is to start talking between the two countries. So I flew to China. That was it. I flew to China, and I was in the working team with Liu Chengzhi and Shannan, all these people together. And so we worked through until the ping pong came over. And then Zhou Enlai received us that evening, early morning, 2 o'clock.
Can you run the footage, please?
Yeah, this is when Zhou Enlai met us for the first time after the Cultural Revolution. The Minister of Foreign Affairs. It was a very intimate, and I was the appointed interpreter for the Chinese officials, for Zhou Enlai himself, and for the Thais. This was the first time the Chinese ever used any foreigners to do the interpreter. So Zhou Enlai was very happy to see us, and he told to Mr. Prasit, you look here. You see, I brought them up. I brought these two children up. It was a very friendly atmosphere because of us, you know. In a sense, this was the meaning of what Zhou Enlai had worked for 20 years. And the two enemy states and the leaders met together, and they were like, close family friends. That was when Zhou Enlai received us. And this is when he said to us, isn't that 20 years of effort worth it? I don't know. I just said to Hillary, I don't know. But this was the 1972 when that was the secret meeting. We met all the important people and Zhou Enlai laid down the principles of the negotiation. And 3 years after, this was the actual signature of the diplomatic relationship between Thailand and China. So we laid the groundwork, and this is the result. And who is it? Zhou Enlai came out from the hospital. He was very sick then. Came out from the hospital to sign the last protocol in his life with Thailand. And in the hospital, that protocol was signed because he said it was done by my two children.
And this is a rather wonderful quote from Kissinger.
It's Kissinger, yeah.
When he says, Chairman and I used the small ping pong ball to move the big ball of the universe. And these are much later. These are your sons.
These are my son. This is Zhou, named after Zhou Enlai. And that is Liu, is named after my another guardian, President Liu Chengzhi. And they both, they're born in England, they're born in London, the London hospital. And they are working, in relationship with China, England, in education, environment. Liu took over for a while the environment organization of Prince Charles at the time. And and these are my my grandchildren. they are somewhere here. They carry on with the family's tradition of keeping up the relationship with China. Why? I think because not many people in the world could have the kind of a close connection and relation with the Chinese leaders and their families the way we have. We are Thai, we remain Thai, we are not Chinese. And we stand as Thai, but we are accepted by the Chinese as one of them, and still one of them. So the two boys, my two grandchildren, they're somewhere here, they go to Chinese elite school, also with grandchildren of whatever, the leaders there. And so these are when they were in 2022, is it, the Winter Olympics? They drew up that, the pictures, and with the older people, with the older children together. So the tradition went on. I think it's to follow my father's behest that whatever happened, China will always be our neighbor. Whatever happened, we still have to deal with China. So to understand China, we have to continue to understand it. To know it, to understand it, to see its development and its non-development. Whatever that changes, you should be part of it to witness this in order to know what Thailand should do. This is kind of the behest he gave to our family. That's why my two children, my two boys, they speak Chinese, Thai, French, English. They will be able to understand the Chinese. The Chinese love them like one of them. My grandchildren, with the grandchildren of the leaders, they also become very close, and they still go there. They are complaining now because they have to go to China and learn Chinese. They speak fluent Chinese. And they had, in the holiday time, like this springtime, the April, in the holiday time, they still had to go to China, go to school, and learn Chinese. And they protest at the moment, because this is our holidays, but why we have to be in China? Why we have to be going to school? Well, I told them, your dad and your uncle did the same things. And
yeah. Sirin, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really commend the book. If you go to Blackwell's, they'll actually arrange a special printing. It takes them 3 weeks, but they do get you the book in the end. And I thoroughly recommend it. There's so much more to this story. And I just want to say thank you for giving us the time. Thank you for helping us to understand more about that region and the politics, but also thank you for the role that you played, Sirin Phathanothai.
thank you.